right, the Domino. The Domino is a loose tenon joinery machine that is made by Festool, and I just looked it up the other day. The patent for this is up this summer in July, so we should be seeing some mimicry of this thing pretty soon, which means the cost will go lower. All that being said, Festool will probably still be making the best version of this machine. It does loose tenon joinery, so this is a domino, and these are called dominoes. It's all the same thing. It's kind of like a biscuit joiner. It has a drill bit that you set in the machine where you plunge it forward while it's spinning, but it's also oscillating, and that is the patented process of the domino. It's different than a biscuit joiner, which is right here, which you can get for, at estate sales and new for like $100, very affordable. What a biscuit joiner is good at is alignment of boards. So if I need to bring, let's say I bought some bird's eye maple that I don't have very much thickness to play with, but I need to do a panel glue up. Well, I can use the biscuit joiner to plunge some holes in both orientations and use something that looks kind of like this football shape. This is the biscuit. And I can feed it in there and they can mate, so I can make sure that when I do the glue up, I don't get any of this swimming on the edge, right? So that's what a biscuit joiner is really good for. It's also good for like plywood work, if you need to just like bring pieces together quickly while the glue hardens up. It doesn't add any strength. It doesn't add any noticeable strength to an edge joint, because as we already know from our glue experiment, that glue is stronger than wood itself, so it's not doing anything on that edge. But for alignment purposes, it's good. So the way this thing works is you plunge this, and it has this spinning, it's almost like a router bit or a small table saw blade, you can think of it, and it creates this pretty wide cut that this can kind of set itself in and kind of rock like a canoe in there, and then you bring those two together. So that's what's going on. And these have different sizes that you can adjust on the biscuit joiner. So this is a size 0, this is a 10, they also have a 20. So if you need a bigger one, that's what you can do. So if you just need to align two boards, this is really quick, easy work to make it happen. The Domino, this is literally a tenon. So we're putting half of each of one of these tenons into a mortise in each face, and this is adding a ton of strength. So these are actually strong and working as if you were cutting a mortise and tenon. The Domino itself works on a center line axis, meaning that the center line of this machine, once you know where that is and where to set it, no matter the size of your bit, the center of that plunging bit is always going to be in the same space in relation to the center line of the machine. So there is a line right here in the middle of the fence, and that is the very center of my cut when I'm plunging this through. On the underside of the casing, there is this center line right here, if you can kind of see that embedded in there. That is also the center of my cutter, no matter the cutter installed. And there's also a relationship with the fence. When I bring that thing down, I can raise and lower this fence. And there is, let me bring this up. There is this flat right here, right? This little flat piece where it sort of steps up right here. That flat is the very center of my cutter, no matter the cutter installed, okay? And so I can use these to align myself and get a pretty good idea of where I am going to be putting a mortise in any piece of wood. So that's just a couple factors on the center line. One thing we need to, I'm sorry, it scared me. one thing we do a little differently here than like if you had this at home, is we have a drawer for the Domino bits. The bits usually come in a little package like this that you would leave in the sustainer box, but they were getting lost and people were forgetting to put them away, so we've made it now a dedicated drawer for the bits that say what? Domino bits? Yeah, Domino bits. And that's under the drills there. So this will come in all these different sizes. Along with the bits, in the front of the drawer is a little wrench. And this is also part of the purchase when you get a Domino. And I'll show you. And these always go back in here. So the way we do it here is when you're ready to use your Domino, you pull the machine out and your dust extractor, you go to the drawer here, you grab the wrench, the bit you need, do all your plunging, and put the bit and the wrench back. So the Domino should always be empty with no bit by the time it's going back in the sustainer. That's just easiest for us. And you'll see it's very quick. If you forget to do one, it doesn't take that long to put a new bit back on. So let me bring this back down. To install a bit, there is a lot of things on a Festool machine that are green, meaning you can move it, right? That's a kind of a universal indicator. And so for some reason this area isn't green, how you pop this off, but just so you know, it's this little black tab right here. And you take the wrench and you pry up, and that pulls this out, and then you pop it up. And now, so the fence is not part of the motor, and I have this little machine screw zone right here, and I'll take a number 6 Domino bit, I'll screw it on there until I can't do it by hand. It just starts, I can feel it, it's now grabbed the motor itself, and so there's a little button right here, and I'll hold that down until it locks in just like a router bit, right? We have to lock that down so you can crank it, and you take that same wrench, and it's not even an 1/8 of a turn, it's just like a little tighter. You don't have to crank it down in the same way, it's like a 1/16, just a little more oomph. And then done with that, so I have my number 6 bit. Let's talk about these numbers, because I keep saying them. There is a number 4, 5, 6, 8, and 10. Festool is a German company, and they've made imperial versions of their tools because America buys a lot of Festool, but they have not made imperial for the Domino. So it's all in metric. But you don't really need to do a lot of conversion if you just kind of figure out, I know that this is a number 6 Domino, and I can hold it up to a piece and say, does this make sense in my piece, right? And so I haven't had to do a lot of charts or conversion. That's just something you need to know. So the 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, let's grab an 8. What that means is the diameter of the cutter is 8 millimeters, so how thick this is 8 millimeters. And this would be 10 and down the line. And there's a drawer back here of lots of dominoes. And there's also a length to them. So we're talking about when I say I need a 6x40 domino, that means it's 6 millimeters thick and 40 millimeters long. And that is the only number 6 one you can buy. They don't have a 50, they don't have a 30, it's only a 6x40. So what we have here is a 4x20, 5x30, 6x40, 8x40, 8x50, and 10x50. So that is just depending on the thickness of your components, what you need it for, how much strength you need to determine which one you want to use. They also make a machine called the Domino XL. And it's I have it at my shop. My shopmate got one, and it starts at 8, and I think goes to 14 or 16 bit.
So it means extra large.
It means extra large, and the tenons get about this long. It is a fun. I had never used it before, so I pulled it out and started playing with it, and it is a fundamentally different machine than this. It's for door makers, right? Traditionally, you'd be doing like mortise and tenon joinery, but you can get really long tenons, and you put 4 next to each other. That is rock solid. It's for like tables in big office buildings where it has a contemporary look, and something most furniture makers wouldn't need. I'd say it's more for big carpentry. Anywho, so this is the regular Domino, and I got the bit in here, and while I have this popped off, there's a switch here, and you can see these different sizes right there, and that is the width of my mortise. And so this small one here is, I call it the tight setting, so we do tight, medium, and wide. And the tight setting is whichever bit you have in here is going to be exactly the width of this Domino. So it locks in there. Sometimes you have to use a hammer to tap it in. It is a tight fitting Domino. Once you go to medium, that mortise is a little wider, so you have a little more wiggle room to set that Domino in. And these two are the ones we're using the most. The wide is kind of an oopsie, I messed up, and I need to open this even more. And that happens, that's okay. You're always gonna do, with big glue-ups with the Domino, you're always gonna do dry fitting. You gotta do, because it seems like such a simple machine that if you don't take that extra step of just bringing some loose tenons together inside of there, you're going to have all this glue and all these clamps ready, and then it's not going anywhere. Because one of these maybe doesn't seem that strong, but as you step down the line with these, with multiple ones in a row, it is a very, very strong joint. It works. We have a bunch of test dominoes in the back of this bit box, and they're all labeled, and they have a T on one side and then some Sharpie on the other. And so these are a little thinner and they're sanded down a little bit so they fit in all the mortises easily. So you can just kind of bring everything together. I'll talk more about that in a minute. But, and if you need to make some more, and then put them in there, for whichever number. That's totally fine. So now over here, there's more metric numbers, which is always nice and fun. And that's your plunge depth. So I'm going to set this back into the fence and bring the fence up. And I can project that out, right? So that is where this is living right now. And what these numbers are telling me is how far that is projecting out from the face of the fence. So right now that's at 20 millimeters. That's what that looks like. I'm gonna open this up, step that up to 12, so now it should project 12 millimeters, so significantly shorter, and that's all that's happening. So again, you gotta figure out what the length of your Domino is, and how much you can go into each component, right? It's not always equal. It's not, just because I'm using a 6x40, doesn't mean I'm always going 20 in both directions. Maybe I go 12 in one component and 28 in the other, right? Because of the thickness of those components. And that works. That's a right way to do it. So if I move that down there, way deep, right? And that's again where people forget to set their plunge depth, and you blow right through. I mean, that's just, it doesn't care, right? It's gonna do what it tells you to do. Okay.
25.4 to convert millimeters to inches.
And then, what else? So where would you use this? Frame and panel joinery, right? Maybe you guys are sick of doing mortise and tenons on the mortising machines and tenons at the table saw. Well, you can use a Domino to make that happen. And so I could have a frame that comes all the way around, and I can set dominoes in there. You still, which domino size should you use? Can I fit, two of the same size? Imagine those are the same thickness. Can I get two in there with enough wiggle room? Do I ever need to use, I could if I use the tight setting. Do I need to use the medium setting for some reason? Is there a panel sitting inside of here that there's a groove? I don't want to plunge into my groove for the panel. Is there a rabbet up here because this is a sliding door? All those things you need to think about. So not that much faster in a lot of ways. But let's say we want to, I already have a number 6 in there. So let's say we want to put one number 6 in here, which honestly with the width of this is a little underkill. You would want to maybe put 2, but just for demo purposes, I want to put a domino right there. Triangle. And you can do, does anyone have a 4-inch square on them? Thank you. Shit. So you can do this 2 ways. You can determine where you want it. Let's just say we want it in the center. So it's about 2.5. So I'll just go to like, and we can, strike a line here and from the end grain here, because we know we're needing like that, right? So we want that to be a nice clean. So we're referencing down from the same face it's going to join together. A lot of times with the domino, with a single domino, you could just flip this over. Let's say we were joining right here. You can also bring it towards you, line it up, and just do that. And the reason is because, so that line is not as straight as the line I made with my square, right? But I'm not looking at this as a line, I'm looking at it as a point. And the point is right where that edge meets. And if I plunge right there and right there, even if this line veered off and away, because something happened and got all sticky, then I'm still just looking at that point, okay? So you can do that. When it comes to something like a carcass screw-up, I do recommend using a square. It doesn't take that much longer, and it's a very positive measurement. So, this is where we want to meet up. Let me extend this a little bit.
When you say you recommended for square, you're saying don't do diagonal miters, or what was it?
No, I'm saying I'd recommend, if you're doing like a bunch in a row on a wide board, use your square. Like use your small square and your big square, and you're saying, okay, 3 inches from this edge, and mark every all the way around, and just like that. So now, I am ready to plunge. Almost. When you're plunging into a component like this, you want it off the table. Because I'm going to be referencing off this face of the fence, I don't want to accidentally be having the bottom resting on the table, thinking I'm making contact with the fence. So you always want to be off the table, okay? So this is making contact with your component. Because what's happening is we're finding that measurement from the top down, from that pencil line down. So that's our reference point now, okay? So I'll show you what I'll do. I'll clamp this up. And I know I have a number 6 bit in there, so that's been established. Now I need to determine my plunge depth, and I need to determine how my tight or medium or wide setting, right? And my fence height. So I want to put that about in the middle of my board. The same rule applies for mortise and tenons. This is a mortise and tenon, but you know how we talked about the third rules? You have like a third wall, third mortise, third wall. That's best practice. So that's kind of what you're always aiming for with this as well. But if you have to favor towards one side, don't go under 1/8 of an inch for your wall. That's where you're getting into dangerous territory where you could just take your finger and compress that and it would crack, okay? So I can set my plunge depth to 20. I'm using a 6x40 domino, and I know I have more than enough room to go 20 in this way and 20 in that way, okay? So I'll just do 20 even. I want to go on the tight setting, but I can't adjust this until it's turned on. That's important. You're breaking the machine slowly if you move that while it's not on, okay? So I'm gonna wait to do that to move it to the tightest setting. So now I'm gonna set my fence height. And remember, this flat point, the top of this terminus here, is where the center of our bit is. So when I hold this over, what do you see? That is not gonna go into anything. Way too low, right? That is just way down. You can't see, but it's not touching anything. So yeah, that's not doing nothing. So I need to bring that fence down. Let's see what that looks like. If I come here, so you see now, it's favoring the top a little bit, but we're close. So that looks, and sometimes it's with the Domino, it's as good as you're gonna get, right? You can't always center it because I'm referencing off this fence and it only goes down so low. But I know that is about where I want to be and can be. There are numbers on the side here where this for the fence height, and these are steps for your fence height. So if I loosen this again and I bring this all the way up, and then I click this forward and bring it down, that is reading right there 28. Right, you see where that's enclosed in the little metal? And so what that's telling me is from the bottom to this fence is 28 millimeters. And you don't have to use the fence, so I'll show you that if I loosen this, bring it up, and just get those steps out of the way, and I can manipulate this up and down, and then I'll just lock it right here. Let's just say that's where I need it. That's not gonna move. So it doesn't need to be on a step, it just needs to be locked down. So I honestly don't use those that much, but if you're doing something for your project and you've landed on the 20 millimeter step, these are things you write down to say, okay, the rest of my joinery next week, I can just get back to all my same settings and know I'm in the same place. So, for this one, I just need to, for where I'm at with this, I need to get the steps out of the way and go as low as possible. That's where I need to be with this. Okay. And you have to have dust extraction plugged in for a Domino because when you're removing that material, if you don't, everything with Festool makes it pretty easy to plug into their vacuums. So, and remember, I'm plugged in to the vacuum for the power. So when I turn the power on, it turns the vacuum on. I've seen people doing different things sanding, and that's how this works. So, if you don't have dust, those chips have nowhere to go, and that piece could just blow out. Like you need to have dust every time. Turning this on, this trigger here, I can click this on and I can rev it. So I can click it on. Or I can rev it. Sometimes I'll just rev it because I need to adjust my size, right? So I'll just flick it on so I can get myself, because you have to adjust this while it's on. So I'm ready to go. I know that I have a number 6 bit. I'm going 20 millimeters deep, and I have my fence set where I know I'll be making contact with material and at least have 1/8 of an inch on one of my mortise walls. And I'm just going to match up with that center line right there with my point down there. Even if I drew it with my square, I'm looking at a point. When you plunge, and it's off the table, when you plunge, my stepdad taught me how to drive, and he was a very good teacher. And he told me, imagine that there's an open cup of coffee on your dash all the time when you're driving, right? So you can't slam on the brakes and you can't gun it or you're gonna get hot coffee all over yourself. And so I think about that too when I do the Domino. It's just an easy in and easy out. And if you go too fast, which you're gonna hear people do, just like when you hear people feed wood through the planer and you're upstairs and you're like, ooh, yikes. You're gonna hear people plunging the Domino too fast. So it just sounds like it's biting too much. So give this thing time, easy in, easy out, and move down your line, okay? Turning it on can be tricky because so when people turn it on, they have a tendency to plunge it forward too. So it's always best practice to turn it on off of before you're ready to plunge. I can turn this thing on and walk around safely and go from like line to line. I don't need to turn it off every time I'm doing this. So I'll turn it on here, and plunging, I'm not holding up here. I'm back here. You just get a lot, and I'm holding down with the fence. You just get a much more control that way, okay? So I'll turn it on and I'll make a plunge. So there we go, right? I have at least that 1/8 of an inch there. That's where I can get it. And this is where you could determine, oh, maybe I make those marks on both faces and I can get myself a double tenon. That's gonna be way stronger, right? How many walls of long grain glue strength can you get out of this? This is clearly way smaller than a traditional mortise and tenon will be. So it is not stronger than a traditional mortise and tenon. Don't be tricked into that, but there's other ways you can get more strength going. We buy off-brand dominoes. You can buy them from Festool. The ones from Festool say Festool on them, and they it's shocking. They fit a little tighter. It's a little bit more of a snug fit. So this is the tight setting here with the number 6, but I can still slide that in. But even a different batch of these, some of them are tighter. They're a little more inconsistent, but they all work relative. So there I am with the tight setting. Now I'll move on to this one. And I'm a little bit off the table. I have the clamp out of the way. I'll stay on my tight setting, find my center mark, plunge. Go, same old. And those come together pretty good. That's pretty much right where I wanted it. So really quick work of some joinery sometimes when you need it. And that can be really helpful. Now let's say I plunged this and it was just like, let's say it looked like this. I was like, for whatever reason, I was like, whoa, I was not on. That was way off. I'll show you on this other face. So now I'm going to clamp this down and go to the medium setting, and I can show you how much variability you have in that. So I'll turn it on, adjust it, and plunge. So that is definitely wider than our other one, right? A little bit more wiggle room. So you don't lose any glue strength in it because the long grain to long grain connection is actually the same still. But you know, you're definitely creating a bit of a cavity, and maybe you don't have that space. So you need to make sure when you're going to that setting that you can actually do this. But now I can bring this in, and I have way more room for alignment during my glue up. And maybe I need that to get everything nice and square and true. Basically, these are butt joints. So if you're not cut up perfect, you might need that room to wiggle, to influence things in a certain orientation. And I'll plunge the wide one just so you can see what that looks like.
Could you catch your own, dominoes?
Totally, yeah. So you could you could make your own dominoes. Like you can mill up a long stick of wood about this wide, go to the router table with a small roundover bit, run both sides, and you have a domino. So we had to do that in one of my chair classes that's all domino joinery, and we ran out of dominoes, so we made cherry dominoes. It worked. It was very fast. You can also like use the wider setting and use that and then make your own dominoes if you want a wider tenon, right? They only make them this wide, but if you wanted to plunge all of them with the wider ones, you could totally make your own too, and then you have way more glue surface.
Hey, Jack.
Yeah.
One thing I would add to that too is like, so the depth of cut on there says 20.
Mm-hmm.
So like, if you did 2 of those, it'd be a total of 40.
It's actually a little
More?
over the
Yeah,
over
so I can remember which, if the mortise is larger or the tenons are
So
shorter. but it
just
doesn't-
like traditional mortise and tenons, the mortises are a little deeper than the tenon actually is. So if I put this in this orientation, keep that snug to the bottom, draw a pencil line, so that's our depth, right? Then I'll flip it over. There's actually a few millimeters of play inside of it, so keep that
So
in
I think
mind
the
too.
tenons are shorter.
Tenons are shorter.
Not, yeah, the depth is accurate, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you should always have an 1/8 of an inch wall for wherever you're plunging into, right? If it bottoms out, you should have at least of an 1/8. Just like we're doing with the housed mortise and tenon, right? That's a 1/2 inch deep in that mortise. We have that 1/8 inch wall before we blow through. Same like this. So very big. That's why we call it the oopsie one. So, but sometimes you need it, or you make a domino that fits tight this wide. That's a much stronger tenon, no doubt. So you can do that. Yeah, so that's frame and panel stuff, bringing things together in general, just how it plunges, how it works, easy peasy. Now, and we're again, like you just use the biscuit joiner if you're gonna, bring some boards together, because that's all you need. But if the domino's already out, you can use the domino too for alignment.
Question on the biscuit joiner, because I'm just thinking of like globes that we've done, right? Could you essentially mill your pieces before you glue it up then? Because you're gonna biscuit join it and then that would be flush, right?
In a perfect world, it would be flush, but it's not. Right?
Okay.
So there's still some sanding, some planing to do. It's like if you're really close and you don't want to risk, like when you clamp it up, it just sort of bends away. You use the biscuit joiner to keep everything pretty flush. You'll still have to scrape some of that glue off and feed it through the planer.
So it would be useful for when like you got a piece that's like pretty close to size, but you can still mill it a little bit, but you
Yes.
want that evenness, so then you'd use the biscuit.
Exactly. And if you really get it on, like you could, some people just sand it down and it is flat enough. Like that's totally doable too. But, one or the other, yeah. I wouldn't say it's, off the clamp rack, it's good to go. There's always some planing by hand or machine to do.
I found it to be pretty nice because I don't have a large planer.
Mm.
So like if I'm doing a glue up, my little 13-inch wide planer won't accept a wider glue up. So I'll do, to get that alignment.
Yeah, like people making workbenches that are really wide, right? They have you probably have the DeWalt planer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that 13-inch DeWalt planer is common in a lot of garage shops, and but they want to make a 28-inch wide workbench, so you have to do a few biscuit joinery to get everything together. Okay, so now let's say you wanted to join a corner like this, right? A contemporary look, where you just have these butt joints. How do you do it? Well, one way is take a sharp pencil, you hold it where you want it, and strike a line right there, okay? And then I'm gonna hinge this piece down, and I'm just gonna cover my pencil mark because that's on the outside of my piece, right? And so I can just get that covered. And then I need to determine where I want some dominoes. Line that up good. And I only need to make marks on this top piece. So I can use my square or eyeball it and go, okay, I need 1, 2, 3, right? And this is where I'm bringing the fence up. And now I'm referencing off the bottom. And that's why there's this center line mark here. So I can't adjust the fence height anymore. There is a determined distance between the bottom of this domino machine and the cutter. But what I can do is I can align that up properly by, and sometimes you'll need an extra piece when you're on an edge. You can set your depth to, and this is also where you need 2 different depths. If I went 20 in here, I might blow through, right? But I have more than enough room in this component to go into the end grain. So here I'm going into long grain, here I'm going into end grain. I only need marks on this face because once the machine is on here, I wouldn't be able to see any marks on it. Right? I'm only looking at the marks I've made right there, right? And I would line up that center line mark with the point of that pencil, and I tight, wide, whatever I need to do. But if I was doing a 6 by 40, maybe I can go 15 into this. You want to still as much real estate as you can. So maybe I can go 15 into this, and then 25 into the other one, right? So I'd have these 2 different settings. So let's see, where is that? Down there. Sorry. Let's see what, I still want that 1/8 of an inch. I'll do 12. Let's see, I'll do one real quick. So, come here. So I'm looking right here. I mean, people can check this out if they want, but I'm just lining up that point with the pencil line right here. And I need to hold that component right there. And this is where people turn it on and then go, and then like hit their piece when they're not ready to. So my plunge depth is at 12. Turn it on. Still on wide, there it is. Luckily I had room.
Just put it sideways.
And now I'll go to 28. Actually, I have to come around this way for this. And now when I'm plunging in, I'm looking at this center line right there. And I'm looking sort of straight down the machine to match up with my point, that same pencil mark right there, okay? steep. Actually, let me go here first. Voila, right? So,
You
that,
probably want another one on that one as well.
yeah, I was just trying to
Yeah.
hurry her up, but yes, right there would be a middle one. So yeah, there's a way you can join, but you know, we're getting close. We have a short grain wall here, so you gotta pay attention to those things, but that's the distance between the bottom of this and where the mortise starts. So you could also, excuse me, you could also, if you wanted, put something right here, right? Maybe you have a shelf, a divider in the middle that you don't want to run that groove for, that you just need to get out of the way and make it happen. So you'd measure inside to inside. That is the final length of your piece. And again, you could draw a line right here, hinge it down, and you're doing the exact same thing. Now you have more surface actually for the machine. So the point is with this way, you're referencing off the bottom. That's the big difference. The fence is not down, it's totally up, okay?
When is this more advantageous than traditional mortise and tenon? Like if you look at your bottom divider, like you could just do this, right? Like,
Yes, exactly, yes.
is there one that like it kind of lends itself more in a situation than the other?
When you, it just depends on how strong you really need it to be. Like, I would argue that house mortise and tenon is stronger than a couple dominoes. And what you want to learn and what you're maybe getting paid for, right? Like if someone wants a beautiful dovetailed case with 3 hidden dividers that are just, you know, no through joinery, well, maybe you just get through those with dominoes and work on your dovetails, right? You can make your money faster. So that's where, you know, it sort of starts paying for itself. There'll be times in the case piece when you guys are making your parts and we're gonna be like, just domino that. Like move on to the more important thing, right?
Timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So, or you know, alternatively, you could put a piece right here. Same thing. Hinge it down. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now you can make a cool bookshelf where the books kind of sit in like that. If you've been confused by like, how do I do this, or do I need to make a whole like router jig? Well, you can just domino it. Easy peasy. So, we got that.
If you would, to say I have to like, go back and make it a medium instead of a tight, is it kind of like the brad point where if you're off a little bit, it'll push it back into there, or?
No, you can go back to one that's tight and just like find that line again and plunge.
Okay.
There'll be less resistance, but same thing, yeah.
So if you're doing that, but there's a top that also gets slotted in, how would you put that all together?
I mean,
Like if it's a bookcase and there's a top and bottom and then you're also doing the middle divider.
It has to be the order of total components coming together, I think.
like just sort of like how would you bring it together?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna, some people design things and they're like, I'll just domino this. And then we'll look at it and be like, I don't think you can glue that together actually, right? So that's something you'll have to, it might, I think it's just gonna depend project to project, yeah. Even screws,